Some of you know me, some may not. I'm Clifton Brister. Met Dennis and Lorna probably, it's been close to 30 years ago now. And there was a time when Lorna was almost like my second mom. Her and Dennis, right after I moved down here, I didn't know anybody, and they took me in for a while, fed me and housed me, and I appreciate that. And so, but tonight I'm gonna read some letters from the family, just a few thoughts and sentiments of their memories of Lorna. So, the first one is from Tony Huckabee, a niece. It says, Aunt Lee has been a second mom to me. At a time when, like all teen girls, I felt I wasn't seen as the adult I felt I was, she treated me like an adult. By giving me the responsibility of watching you guys, while she and Uncle Dennis were at work, I gained self-confidence and learned life skills needed for the future. Her laugh is infectious and her attitude uplifting. After my mom passed, she made it a point to always call me on my birthday, and when she and Uncle Dennis went to Missouri, they swung by Kansas and picked me up and took me with them. I love them both very much and will miss her as much as I miss my mom. This next one is from Brent Medeiros, Lorna's nephew. It says, to my auntie, I want you to know how much I love you. You have always been wonderful to me and just like my second mom. I remember spending so much time at the Thyman house growing up, fireplace roaring in the winter, swimming and splashing in the summer. I want you to know how much of an honor it was for me to be able to offer up my house to the two of you a few short years ago when you're staying with me. It was just nice to be able to feel like I was giving back a little of what you had given me my whole life. I so loved her laugh and all the times we spent together watching the Cowboys, eating, swimming, and how she was a second mom to me. I think as we read some of these letters, you're going to see a kind of a common theme about Lorna. I mean, she was, well, not just a Cowboys fan. Lorna always had a smile on her face. I don't ever remember seeing a time when she wasn't smiling or laughing. I mean, she was very witty, and she was very fun to be around. And Jay, you read a couple and I'll finish up.
All right, I'm Jay. I also work with Clifton and Dennis. I think they sent me down here about 17 years ago. I think probably maybe to take Dennis's place the first time we cheated death. That's been twice you've done that. So I don't know if that was their plans or not, but anyway, this is something Kevin wrote about his mother. Mom, she saved our world a lot, whether a skinned knee or a broken heart, kissing a pinched finger or offering words of reassurance. She found a way to make it better, and she certainly made it a better place for everyone she met. Love you forever, Mom. And this is from his daughter, Megan. My wonderful grandmother passed away last night. She was something else, more than a grandmother. She was a cheerleader, an encourager, kind yet tough as nails, and a total blast to spend time with and talk to. Although she lived in Texas, we didn't see each other very often. We made up for it with frequent talks. I'm grateful for all she taught me, grateful for all the talks we had with Lizzie, and so thankful for the priceless memories. She saw me through plenty of tough times and was always there for the good and the bad. It's impossible to begin to grasp that she's gone. This is from Kevin's other daughter, Ashley. My sweet and colorful granny passed away last night. It's a blessing. She's not suffering, but the weight of her passing is awful. She is so loved, and my heart breaks for my family, but especially for Grandpa. Not sure how to function today, and lack of words for how much I love and miss her already. It was awful waking up and knowing she was gone.
And this one I'll read was from Sister Jo. It says, one day I was just a toddler, and Dad drove us to the river that we lived near so he could fish and we could swim and play. And the story goes that Lorna, about age 8 at the time, and Ronald and 2 cousins, Gwenny and Morris, were playing when a lizard ran up Morris's pant leg. And Morris started screaming and dancing and scaring Lorna and Gwenny, and so they ran and jumped in the car for safety, and little did they know that Morris was right behind them. Morris ran into the car and slammed the door, locking them in with the lizard. It says every summer our mom worked at the cannery, and Lorna would babysit Ronald and me as well as do the house chores. Ronald was always teasing me, the baby kid's sister, and one particular day Ronald wouldn't stop teasing me and was constantly running in and out of the house that Lorna was trying to keep clean. So she chased him out the front door and then locked both the front and the back door so that Ronald couldn't get in. He remained locked outdoors until Mom came home from work. Laura was 11 at the time, and Ronald was 10, and Joe was 5, and that was one of the few times that Lorna ever lost her temper. When Lorna was in the 8th grade, a group of us went to the mountains to spend the day playing in the snow, and that was when Lorna broke her leg. I felt so important because she was on crutches with her leg in a cast, and every school day I got to carry my big sister's school books for her because backpacks didn't exist at the time. We laughed often because I was sad the day the cast was removed. I was no longer her helper. Ronald had a paper route. Lorna and I were the backups when he couldn't deliver the newspapers. We laugh at how many times we had to make the deliveries, but Ronald always seemed to get the pay. Lorna's always worked in a law office, and I worked in a courtroom. We could sit for hours talking and laughing about the actions of attorneys and judges. When I was 13, I had my first date, a dance at school. And my date was a no-show. So to make me feel better, Lorna let me spend that evening with her and the older crowd. How quickly I felt better. I can remember when my son Brent crashed the three-wheeler. Brent was walking on his lower lip when he had to tell Dennis that he broke the bike. And Lorna was laughing so hard. And then we went to the scene to discover that the rest of the family had placed a cross and flowers at the scene. Talk about laughter. Right after you all arrived in Texas, Lorna sent Brent a box of dirt from Cowboy Stadium. Brent treasured that dirt. Little did he know it came from the house where you lived. We have spent our lifetime laughing and talking and truly enjoying each other's company. I consider Lorna the twin sister I never had, and we could see or hear something and just start laughing. And Dennis knows when we got together, that's just the way it would be. Lots of talking and laughter. Many times Dennis would be on the way to bed and say, "Now you girls don't stay up too late." We three, Dennis, Lorna, and myself, have had so many good times on our travel because of the talk and the laughter. Lorna, the caregiver, best defines who she wanted to be and was. Lorna, say hello to the folks, and one day you and I will once again sit down and talk and laugh. I love you so much. Forever.
Amen.
This was from that brother Ronald that they were talking about so much in there. Manny boy, I'm just a year and 20 days older than you. That's my early memory of my big sister. At the time, we could count our ages on one hand. She remained my big sister throughout the childhood, helping me with the challenges of schoolwork. She was the smartest one who always got good grades, and as necessary, the occasional bully. Now, there's not but about 2 of them, and 3 or 4 of them in here that won't understand most of the rest of this. Then a few years later, during my career as a written news media distributor provider, a paper boy, On those cold, wet winter days, taking me on my bicycle route, or on those cold winter days, taking on my bicycle route in the family car. They used to deliver the papers, kids, in a bicycle, and just throw them off the side, up toward the house, close you could get them. All of them came. And as the norm in those days, she began working right after high school, and generously purchased our first new high fidelity television for the family. Didn't have flat screens back then. When I was challenged and overwhelmed by the standards of perfection for a term paper in a college English class, she applied her office skills, helping me create a document that allowed me to complete the class with a much higher grade than I deserved. Then as we were going our separate ways and with different friends, she introduced this guy Dennis into the family, who became the brother I never had. I was lucky to have him as a big sister. This one's from her buddy. Says, we met in Modesto, California in 1961 while attending college and working part-time at Hisher Nursery. We were introduced to one another at a lunch one day. Lorna and Shirley Hishire working at a local law office when Pete Hishire and I met the girls for lunch. It went from there. Over the years, we have raised 3 wonderful children. I went to work for Shell Chemical. Lorna continued her career in the legal profession. We spent 18 years in Modesto, and the opportunity to move to South Texas was offered. We embarked on a great adventure in 1981. We moved ourselves in a Ryder truck into the unknown. We started on a 15-acre tract full of brush, which we cleared, built our home, and planted our first citrus grove. Lorna continued working in law, being hired by Mr. Forrest Jones after we had been here only 1 week. When the firm split, she stayed with Mr. James Lauderdale and retired after 30 years. After retiring, she spent her time keeping me in line. What a wonderful life the two of us have had together. 3 children, 3 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. She and I have spoiled all of them and love them dearly. The 2 of us traveled to Alaska 3 times, one which was in a motorhome for 2 weeks. We also traveled to Mexico on several occasions. Once to Real de Catorce, an old silver mining town where we spent 2 nights in sleeping bags on the ground. I'm glad they clarified that a while ago that she liked that. I thought it was very cheap. It was quite an experience. We also traveled to the Rocky Mountains of Canada with one of our granddaughters, Calgary and Banff. A few years ago, we purchased a cabin on the Arroyo, Colorado, in Arroyo City. She loved going there and watching the birds and water. It became one of her favorite places to be. I'll remember all the good times we had together, and we loved one another very much. But life goes on. We do the best we can, and we move forward. We spent 53 years together. Lorna was the love of my life and my companion, my friend. I will truly miss her. Dennis.